Dr. Eleanor Rodriguez had seen plenty of strange things in her 20 years as a doctor, but nothing like this. She stood in the bright white medical room, staring at the screens that showed something impossible. The young woman lying on the bed looked peaceful, almost sleeping, but the machines around her told a very different story. 3 years ago, when the first alien ships landed on Earth, everyone thought life would change overnight. They were right, but not in the way anyone expected. The visitors from space weren't here to hurt us or take over our planet. They came to help, to share knowledge, to work together. They called themselves the Kepler Coalition, and they brought medicine that could cure diseases we'd been fighting for centuries. But today, all that advanced alien medicine felt useless. Elena looked at the patient again. Zara Kim, 22 years old, a bright college student who had been perfectly healthy just 1 week ago. Now, thin silver lines ran under her skin like tiny rivers of light. They started at her fingertips and moved slowly up her arms, spreading across her chest. The alien doctors had a name for it, but Elena couldn't pronounce the strange clicking sounds they made. What she did know was terrifying. According to every alien medical expert on the space station, Zara was going to die. Not maybe, not probably, but definitely. They had seen this before in other worlds, and it always ended the same way. Dr. Rodriguez, came a voice like crystal chimes behind her. Elena turned to see Dr. Zeth, the Zenthri physician who had been working on Zara's case. His tall, translucent body caught the light from the medical equipment, making him shimmer like a living diamond. "We have completed our final analysis." Elena's stomach dropped, but she kept her face calm. "And the pathogen has progressed beyond the point of any known treatment. In our experience across 17 different worlds and 43 species, this particular organism has a mortality rate of 100%. There is nothing more we can do." The words hit Elena like a punch to the chest, but she'd heard them before from the other alien doctors. Dr. Yath, the Orvaki healer whose skin glowed with soft blue light, had said the same thing yesterday. So had the medical team from the ship orbiting Mars. Every advanced civilization in the galaxy apparently agreed on one thing: Zara Kim was beyond saving. "How long?" Elena asked, though she dreaded the answer. 72 hours, perhaps less. The silver pathways will reach her brain stem within that time. After that, Zeth's crystalline head tilted in what Elena had learned was their version of a shrug. "It will be peaceful. She will simply stop." Elena nodded slowly, but inside, something was burning. She'd become a doctor to save lives, not to watch young people die while she stood helpless. The alien medicine was incredible, yes, but it followed rules that seemed set in stone. If their book said something was impossible, they accepted it. End of story. But Elena was human, and humans had never been very good at accepting impossible. After Zeth left, Elena pulled up Zara's file on the medical computer. The girl's parents had sent her to the space station when the first symptoms appeared. A slight fever and some dizziness within hours. The silver lines had started appearing on her hands. The Earth hospitals couldn't figure out what was happening, so they sent her here, to the most advanced medical facility in the solar system. Elena scrolled through page after page of test results, blood work, brain scans, genetic analysis. Everything looked normal except for the silver pathogen that was slowly taking over Zara's body. The alien doctors called it a cellular reconstruction virus, something that had wiped out entire populations on distant worlds before the coalition learned to quarantine infected areas. But something bothered Elena about their analysis. She'd spent years studying alien biology, learning how their bodies worked, how their medicine functioned. Their approach was elegant, precise, almost mathematical. They could cure diseases by adjusting the exact frequency of light hitting cells or by introducing specific chemicals that worked like tiny molecular machines. Human medicine was messier. Humans had survived ice ages, plagues, and disasters that should have wiped them out completely. They adapted, evolved, found ways to survive when survival seemed impossible. Their immune systems were chaotic, unpredictable, sometimes even working against them, but they were also incredibly flexible. Elena walked over to Zara's bedside. The young woman's breathing was steady, her face peaceful. The silver lines had spread further since that morning, now reaching her shoulders. According to the alien predictions, she had less than 3 days to live. "I'm not giving up on you," Elena whispered. "I don't care what their computers say." She spent the next 6 hours diving deeper into the medical data than any of the alien doctors had bothered to go. They saw the pathogen as a simple destroyer, something that broke down healthy cells and replaced them with something else. But Elena noticed patterns they had missed. The silver pathways weren't random. They followed specific routes through Zara's body, connecting to nerve clusters and major organs in ways that seemed almost purposeful. It reminded Elena of something she'd studied in medical school: the way stem cells move through the body during development, building and connecting systems. What if the pathogen wasn't trying to kill Zara? What if it was trying to change her into something else? It was a crazy thought, the kind that would get her laughed out of any medical conference. But as Elena stared at the pattern spreading across the girl's unconscious form, she couldn't shake the feeling that everyone was missing something important. The alien doctors saw death approaching. Elena saw a puzzle that hadn't been solved yet. She pulled up her personal research files, notes from years of studying how different species' bodies worked. Humans were unique in the galaxy for their adaptability. Most alien species had evolved unstable worlds with predictable environments. Their bodies were perfectly designed for their home planets, but they couldn't handle much change. Humans were different. They had survived everything Earth could throw at them: volcanic winters, ice ages, pandemics, climate shifts. Their bodies were built to adapt, to change, to find ways to keep going when everything seemed hopeless. Maybe that was the key. Maybe Zara's human biology was fighting the pathogen in ways the alien doctors couldn't understand. Their medicine was designed for stable, predictable biological systems. But human bodies thrived on chaos. Elena looked at the sleeping girl one more time. The silver lines pulsed gently under her skin, like a second heartbeat, beautiful and terrifying. At the same time, 72 hours, she said to herself, "We'll see about that." Outside the medical bay, she could hear the alien staff preparing for what they considered inevitable. In their experience, when their advanced medicine failed, there was nothing left to try. But Elena had something they didn't understand: the stubborn human refusal to accept defeat. She was about to break every rule in their medical handbook, and she was going to save Zara Kim, even if it meant defying every law of alien medicine in the process. The next morning brought bad news and worse arguments. Elena walked into the main medical conference room to find 12 alien doctors waiting for her, their various forms creating a rainbow of colors and shapes round the metal table. Dr. Zeth's crystal body caught the morning light, while Dr. Yoff's blue glow pulsed slowly with what Elena had learned meant deep concern. Dr. Rodriguez came the voice of Commander Zelek, the station's head of medical operations. His species looked almost human except for the extra arms and the way his eyes shifted color. When he was upset, right now, they were a deep red. "We need to discuss the Kim patient." Elena took her seat, already knowing she wasn't going to like this conversation. "What about her? The Coalition Medical Ethics Board has reviewed her case." Zelek continued, his four hands folding together on the table. "They have issued a directive. No experimental treatments are to be attempted. The pathogen is too dangerous, and any failed experiments could spread the infection to other areas of the station." Elena felt her jaw clench. "So we just let her die. We make her comfortable," said Dr. Yoth, her gentle voice carrying sadness. "We ensure she feels no pain. This is the way of medical ethics across all coalition worlds. When medicine cannot save a life, we do not risk other lives with dangerous experiments. That's not medicine," Elena said, her voice rising. "That's giving up." The room fell silent. Several of the alien doctors exchanged looks that Elena couldn't interpret, but she could feel their disapproval like a weight in the air. Commander Zelak's eyes shifted to orange. "Dr. Rodriguez, I understand this is difficult for humans to accept. Your species has a reputation for being impulsive, but medical ethics exists for good reasons. We have seen too many disasters caused by doctors who thought they knew better. then establish protocols. Elena stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. Your protocols are going to let a 22-year-old girl die. And for what? Because your computers say it's impossible to save her. Because attempting to save her could kill dozens of others, Zeth replied, his chime-like voice sharp. The pathogen is highly infectious. If your experiments fail, and it spreads, then we contain it, Elena interrupted. We take precautions. We find a way. There is no way, Dr. Yoth said sadly. We have seen this pathogen on 17 worlds. It has never been defeated. Acceptance of medical limitations is the foundation of ethical practice. Elena looked around the room at all these advanced beings from across the galaxy. They had medicine that could regrow organs, cure genetic diseases, even extend life by centuries. But when faced with something their textbooks said was impossible, they just stopped trying. You know what? Elena said, walking toward the door. I'm human, and humans don't believe in impossible. She left the room behind a chorus of clicking, whistling, and humming sounds that she assumed were alien expressions of frustration. Back in her private lab, Elena locked the door and pulled up everything she could find about the pathogen. Not just the official coalition reports, but older files. Research from worlds that had been affected years ago. Even fragmentary data from civilizations that hadn't survived the outbreaks. What she found made her sick. World after world, the same story. The pathogen appeared, spread quickly through the population, and within months, entire civilizations were gone. The coalition's response was always the same: quarantine the infected areas, and wait for the pathogen to die out with its hosts. But Elena noticed something the alien doctors had missed. On every world, there were survivors. Not many, but always. A few. The coalition records dismissed them as statistical anomalies or false positives. But Elena saw a pattern. The survivors were always from species that had faced major environmental challenges. Ice ages, asteroid impacts, massive climate changes. Species that had been forced to adapt or die. Just like humans, Elena's hands shook as she pulled up more data. She cross-referenced survival rates with evolutionary histories, and the pattern became clearer. The more chaotic a species' evolutionary background, the higher their survival rate. The more stable their world, the more likely they were to be completely wiped out. That's it, she whispered to herself. It's not about the pathogen. It's about adaptation. She spent the next 8 hours diving deeper into her theory. The pathogen wasn't just destroying cells randomly. It was trying to rewrite them, to change them into something new. Most species couldn't handle that kind of biological chaos. Their bodies were too specialized to perfectly adapt it to their specific environments. But humans had survived. Everything. Their immune systems were messy, chaotic, sometimes attacking their own bodies by mistake. But that chaos also meant they could adapt to almost anything. Elena pulled up Zara's latest scans. The silver pathways had spread further, now covering most of her torso. But instead of the random destruction the alien doctors expected to see, Elena noticed something else. The pathogen was following specific routes, connecting to nerve clusters, lymph nodes, major organ systems. It looked almost like construction, like something was being built inside Zara's body. Elena's computer chimed with an incoming message. It was from Commander Zellick. Dr. Rodriguez, report to Medical Base 7 immediately. The patient's condition has worsened. When Elena arrived, she found Dr. Yoth and Dr. Zeth standing around Zara's bed, their body language screaming defeat. The silver lines now covered Zara's entire body, pulsing gently with her heartbeat. Her neural activity has changed, Dr. Yoth reported. The pathogen has reached her brain. According to our projections, she has less than 18 hours remaining. Elena looked at the brain scans floating above Zara's bed. The alien doctors saw chaos, damaged neural pathways, a mind being destroyed. But Elena saw something different. The patterns looked almost organized, like someone was rewiring a computer, not destroying it. I want to try something, Elena said quietly. Absolutely not, Zeth replied immediately. The Medical Ethics Board was very clear. The Medical Ethics Board is going to let her die, Elena interrupted. I'm not. She turned to face both alien doctors. I'm going to save her life. And I'm going to do it using methods your precious coalition has never even considered. Dr. Yoff's blue glow dimmed. Elena, please. I understand your frustration. But there are protocols. Your protocols don't work on humans, Elena said. You treat our bodies like they're just weird versions of your own. But we're not. We're completely different. We're built for chaos, for change, for surviving the impossible. She looked back at Zara, lying so still on the medical bed. This pathogen isn't killing her. It's trying to change her. And instead of fighting that change, I'm going to help it happen. Then I'm going to bring her back. Zet's crystalline body seemed to vibrate with shock. That's not medicine. That's madness. Elena smiled for the first time in days. Yeah, it's human medicine. She was about to attempt something that had never been tried in the history of galactic medicine. Something that violated every rule the Coalition had established. Something that could save Zara's life or kill her faster than the pathogen ever could. But Elena was done playing by alien rules. It was time to show the galaxy what human medicine could really do. Elena's hands trembled as she prepared the most dangerous medical procedure of her career. It was 3 in the morning, and most of the alien medical staff had gone to their rest cycles. She had maybe 6 hours before they discovered what she was doing. In the small human medical bay, Elena had gathered her tiny team. Dr. Chenwei, the station's only other human doctor, looked nervous but determined. Nurse Lisa Park had volunteered despite knowing this could end all their careers. And Dr. Hassan Ali, their biochemist, had spent the last 12 hours preparing compounds that no alien computer had ever calculated. Are we really doing this? Chen asked, staring at the equipment they'd quietly moved from storage. If this goes wrong, Zara dies faster, and we'll probably be banned from practicing medicine anywhere in the galaxy. Elena looked through the window at Zara's room next door. The silver lines now covered every inch of her body, pulsing like a second nervous system. Her brain scan showed patterns that should have been impossible, neural activity that looked almost like someone rebuilding a computer from the inside out. She's going to die anyway if we don't try, Elena said. The alien doctors have given up, but I think I know what's really happening to her. She pulled up her research on the main screen. Charts, graphs, and images filled the display. Data she'd been collecting for days while the alien medical staff prepared for Zara's inevitable death. Look at this, Elena said, pointing to a series of brain scans. The aliens see random destruction, but watch the patterns over time. The pathogen isn't destroying her neural pathways. It's rebuilding them, creating new connections, new networks. Hassan leaned forward, studying the data. It's like someone upgrading a computer's operating system, tearing down the old code and writing something completely new. Exactly, Elena said. And that's why every other species dies from this pathogen. Their brains, their bodies, they're despecialized. They can't handle this kind of massive biological reprogramming. But humans? She pulled up comparison charts showing human versus alien neural flexibility. We're different. Our brains are messy, chaotic, constantly changing. We can adapt to almost anything. I think Zara's human biology is actually trying to work with the pathogen, not fight it. Lisa frowned, but she's still dying. Her body can't handle the stress of whatever this thing is trying to do to her. Right, Elena said. The pathogen is trying to transform her, but it's happening too fast. Her human systems can't keep up. So instead of fighting the transformation, we're going to help it happen. Then we're going to guide her back. Chen stared at her. Guide her back from what? Elena took a deep breath. From becoming something that's never existed before. She laid out her plan. It was insane, dangerous, and violated every principle of alien medicine. Instead of trying to stop the pathogen, they would accelerate its work. Using human stem cell therapy, they would give Zara's body the resources it needed to complete whatever transformation was happening. Then, using targeted genetic therapy, they would create a biological pathway back to normal human physiology. It's like helping someone walk across a dangerous bridge. Instead of trying to stop them from crossing, Elena explained, the Aliens keep trying to pull patients back to safety, but that just leaves them stuck in the middle, dying slowly. We're going to help Zara get all the way across, then build her a way home. Hassan was already mixing compounds, his hands moving with the precision of someone who'd spent years studying human biochemistry. The nanobots will be the hardest part. We need them to monitor her cellular changes in real time and adjust our treatments accordingly. Can you do it? Elena asked. I can try. But Elena, if we're wrong about this, if the pathogen really is just trying to kill her, then she dies 6 hours sooner than she would have anyway, Elena finished. But if we're right, we save her life and maybe learn something that could help millions of others. They worked in silence for the next 2 hours, preparing equipment and medications that had never been used together before. Elena had taken inspiration from everything: cancer treatments that reprogram cells, experimental therapies for genetic disorders, even veterinary medicine she'd studied years ago. The alien doctor's approach was elegant and precise. Elena's plan was chaotic, adaptive, and completely unpredictable. It was, she realized, the most human thing she'd ever attempted. At 5 in the morning, they moved Zara to the human medical bay. Her condition had worsened again. Her breathing was shallow, and the silver patterns under her skin were pulsing faster, almost frantically. Her body's trying to complete the transformation, Elena said, watching the monitors. But it's running out of energy. We need to start now. She began the first phase, introducing modified stem cells into Zara's bloodstream. These weren't ordinary stem cells. Hassan had engineered them to be incredibly adaptive, able to become whatever type of cell the body needed most. If the pathogen was trying to rebuild Zara's biology, these cells would give it the raw materials to work with. The effect was immediate and terrifying. Zara's heart rate spiked, then dropped to almost nothing. Her brain activity exploded into patterns the monitors couldn't interpret for 47 seconds. Her vital signs flatlined completely. Elena, Chen shouted, reaching for the emergency resuscitation equipment. No, wait. Elena watched the monitors, her heart pounding. The nanobots Hassan had created were flooding through Zara's system. REPO or TING cellular changes happening faster than anything they'd ever recorded. She's not dying. She's changing. Suddenly, Zara's heart began beating again, but differently, stronger, with a rhythm that seemed almost musical. Her brain scan showed activity in areas that shouldn't have been active at all. The silver lines under her skin began to glow brighter, forming patterns that looked almost like circuit boards. What's happening to her? Lisa whispered. Elena stared at the readings in amazement and terror. I think she's becoming something new. Something that's part human and part something else entirely. For 6 hours, they monitored Zara as her body underwent changes that no medical textbook had ever described. Her cellular structure was rebuilding itself from the ground up, guided by the pathogen but supported by Elena's treatments. It was like watching evolution happen in real time. The most incredible part was her brain activity. The chaotic neural patterns were organizing themselves into something that looked almost like a computer network, but not an alien computer. Something uniquely human, but expanded beyond anything Elena had seen before. She's not just surviving the pathogen, Elena realized. She's integrating with it, becoming something that's never existed before. Now came the hardest part. Elena had to bring Zara back from this transformed state while keeping the beneficial changes. It was like performing surgery on someone who was actively evolving. As the sun rose over the space station, Elena prepared for the most delicate phase of her impossible procedure. She had helped Zara cross the bridge. Now she had to build the way home. 36 hours after the most dangerous medical procedure of Elena's career, something miraculous happened. Zara's eyes opened. Elena had been sitting beside the bed for hours, watching the monitors that showed brain activity unlike anything in medical history. The silver lines under Zara's skin had faded to thin, delicate scars that pulsed gently with her heartbeat. Her vital signs were stable, but they were also completely different from any human Elena had ever seen. Zara, Elena whispered, leaning forward. Can you hear me? Zara turned her head slowly. And when their eyes met, Elena felt a chill run down her spine. Zara's eyes were still brown, still human, but there was something else there now, a depth, an awareness that seemed to see far more than any person should be able to see. Dr. Rodriguez, Zara said, and Elena nearly fell out of her chair. Because Zara hadn't just spoken in English. The words had come out in 3 different languages at exactly the same time. English from her mouth, but also the crystal chime sounds of the Zenthari language and the electromagnetic pulses that the Orvaki used to communicate. "How are you feeling?" Elena asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Zara sat up slowly, looking round the medical bay with curious eyes. "I feel different, but also more myself than I've ever been." Again, the words came in multiple languages simultaneously. "I can understand things now that I never could before." Elena's hand shook as she checked Zara's vital signs. Everything looked good, better than good actually. Her heart was stronger, her reflexes faster. Her brain activity showed patterns that suggested intelligence far beyond normal human levels. "Zara, do you remember what happened to you?" "The pathogen," Zara said, nodding. "But it wasn't trying to kill me, was it? It was trying to give me something, a gift." She looked at her hands, where the faint silver scars traced delicate patterns. Across her palms, "I can hear them, you know, the other species on the station, not their words, but their thoughts, their feelings. It's like being able to see colors that don't exist." Elena called for Dr. Chen and the rest of her team when they arrived. They found Zara sitting up in bed, talking easily with Dr. Zeth, who had appeared the moment the alien medical sensors detected Zara's awakening. "This is impossible," Zeth was saying, his crystalline body vibrating with confusion. "She should be dead. The pathogen should have destroyed her neural pathways completely." "But I'm not dead," Zara said, responding to Zeth in perfect Zenthari. "Harmonic frequencies? I'm more alive than I've ever been." Dr. Yath arrived next, her blue glow pulsing with amazement. "Child, how are you speaking our languages? No human has ever been able to produce electromagnetic communication." Zara smiled. "I don't know how. I just can. It's like the pathogen didn't destroy my brain. It connected it to something larger. I can understand concepts that have no words in any single language." Over the next few hours, more alien doctors arrived to examine this impossible patient. Zara spoke with each of them in their native languages, discussing ideas and concepts that bridge the gaps between species in ways no translator had ever managed. She described colors that only the Orvaki could see, but in ways that made Elena almost understand what they looked like. She explained Zenthari mathematical concepts that had no human equivalent, but somehow made them feel familiar, logical. She talked about emotions and thoughts that existed between species, feelings that connected all intelligent life. "It's like the pathogen was a key," Zara explained to Elena later. "When they were alone, it unlocked parts of my brain that were always there but never active. I can think in ways that span multiple species' thought patterns." Elena was fascinated and terrified in equal measure. "Are you still human, Zara?" Zara considered this question. "Seriously, I'm still me. I still remember my childhood, my family, my dreams. But I'm also more than I was. I can see connections between things that I never noticed before. I can understand alien concepts not by learning them, but by feeling them." Elena ran more tests, trying to understand what had happened to her patient. Zara's DNA was still human, but with modifications that shouldn't have been possible. Her brain structure was fundamentally human, but with new neural pathways that seemed to connect to areas that had never been active before. The pathogen didn't replace her human biology, Elena realized. It enhanced it. It took what was already there and expanded it in ways we never imagined possible. Commander Zelik arrived that evening with a full medical review board. They expected to find either a dead patient or a dangerous alien creature. Instead, they found a young human woman who could communicate with every species in the coalition, better than their most advanced computers. "This changes everything," Zelik said, his eyes shifting through colors Elena had never seen before. "If humans can survive and integrate with this pathogen, it means the pathogen isn't a weapon. Zara said, understanding his thoughts before he finished speaking. It's a bridge, a way for different species to understand each other on levels we never thought possible. But Elena noticed something troubling in Zara's medical scans. Her aging process had slowed dramatically. Her cellular regeneration was happening at rates that suggested she might live for centuries. Her brain activity showed patterns that were still evolving, still changing. Zara, Elena said quietly, you're not just healed. You're still changing. We don't know what you're becoming. Zara nodded, looking out the window at the stars beyond the space station. I know, and honestly, I'm excited to find out. Elena watched her patient, no, her friend, with a mixture of pride and worry. She had saved Zara's life, but in doing so, she had created something new, something that had never existed in the galaxy before. Zara was still human, but she was also something more, a bridge between species, a living translator who could understand alien thoughts and feelings as easily as human ones. She was proof that the pathogen wasn't a destroyer, it was an evolutionary tool, a way to create connections between different forms of intelligent life. But Elena couldn't shake the feeling that they had only seen the beginning of Zara's transformation. The young woman sitting by the window, casually conversing with alien doctors in languages no human had ever spoken, was becoming something the universe had never seen before. And Elena wasn't sure if that was the most wonderful or the most terrifying thing she had ever witnessed. 6 months later, Elena stood in the largest conference room of the Coalition Medical Council headquarters, looking out at representatives from 47 different species. The room hummed with translation devices, electromagnetic pulses, and harmonic frequencies as dozens of alien civilizations tried to understand what had happened on a small medical station orbiting Earth. But they didn't need the translators anymore. Zara Kim sat at the front of the room, speaking directly to each species in their own language, explaining concepts that bridge the gaps between completely different ways of thinking. The pathogen, which we now call the bridge virus, isn't a disease at all, Zara was saying, her words flowing seamlessly between frequencies and tones that Elena still couldn't believe. We're coming from a human throat. It's a biological tool created by an ancient civilization to help different species understand each other. Eleanor remembered the day, 3 months ago, when Zara had made that discovery. She had been studying samples of the virus with equipment that could analyze its genetic structure down to individual atoms. What she found shocked everyone. The virus wasn't natural. It was engineered, designed by some unknown species millions of years ago. They created it as a gift, Zara continued, addressing the assembled representatives, a way to break down the barriers between different forms of intelligent life. But it only works on species that have faced major evolutionary challenges, species that have learned to adapt, to change, to survive the impossible. Eleanor watched as alien medical officers took notes, their various writing methods creating a symphony of clicks, lights, and electromagnetic patterns. The revelation had turned galactic medicine upside down. What they had thought was a deadly plague was actually a sophisticated piece of biotechnology. But the real breakthrough had come when Zara began working as humanity's first biological, diplomatic interpreter. She could understand not just alien languages, but alien ways of thinking. When the Zenthri spoke of mathematical concepts that existed in 17 dimensions, Zara could translate them into ideas that human minds could grasp. When humans talked about emotional concepts like hope or stubbornness, she could help alien species understand feelings they had never experienced. Elena's approach to treating Zara had become known as adaptive medicine, the human method of working with biological chaos instead of trying to control it. Other species had begun sending their most challenging patients to human doctors, hoping that humanity's messy, unpredictable medical methods could solve problems that elegant alien medicine couldn't touch. Dr. Rodriguez called out Dr. Zeth from the audience, his crystalline form catching the light. Can you explain how your species developed such unusual medical practices? Elena stepped forward, still amazed that she was addressing the galaxy's most advanced medical minds. Humans evolved on a chaotic world, she said. Ice ages, volcanoes. Asteroid impacts, Earth threw everything at us. We survived by learning to adapt quickly, to find solutions that shouldn't work but do. She pulled up images of Earth's history, showing the disasters and challenges that had shaped human evolution. Most species evolve on stable worlds. Your medicine is precise because your biology is predictable. Human medicine is chaotic because human bodies are built to handle chaos. A representative from the coal of our species raised what Elena assumed was a hand, but the ethical implications of your methods, allowing dangerous biological transformations to occur, were terrifying, Elena admitted. I spent weeks wondering if I had saved Zara or created something dangerous. But look at what she's become. Zara stood up, and Elena felt that familiar chill. 6 months later, Zara was still changing. She looked human. But there was something in her eyes and the way she moved that suggested vast depths of knowledge and experience. She aged differently now, thought in patterns that span multiple species' ways of understanding reality. I'm still human, Zara said, as if reading Elena's thoughts. I still remember my first day of college, still miss my grandmother's cooking, still cry at sad movies, but I'm also connected to something larger. I can feel the thoughts and emotions of every intelligent species I meet. I understand concepts that exist between different ways of thinking. Elena had run thousands of tests on Zara over the past months. Her DNA was still recognizably human, but with modifications that allowed her brain to process information in ways no human had ever managed. She could see patterns that connected seemingly unrelated ideas, understand mathematical concepts that required minds capable of thinking in dozens of dimensions simultaneously. The bridge virus doesn't change who you are, Zara continued. It reveals who you could become. But it only works on species that have the biological flexibility to handle major changes. Most species are too specialized to perfectly adapted to their home worlds, but humans are different, Elena added. We're generalists. We can eat almost anything, live in almost any environment, adapt to almost any challenge. That flexibility is what allowed Zara to survive and integrate with the virus instead of being destroyed by it. Commander Zelik spoke up from his position at the head council table. What are the implications for other species? Can this adaptive medicine help beings who wouldn't survive the virus itself? Elena smiled. This was the part she was most proud of. We've been working on that, using Zara's transformed biology as a guide. We've developed treatments that can give other species some of the virus's benefits without the dangerous transformation process. She showed them images of their recent successes. A Zenthari mathematician who could now understand human emotional concepts. An Orvaki artist who could perceive colors that existed only in human imagination. A human diplomat who could sense the electromagnetic emotions of other species. We're not trying to change everyone into what Zara became, Elena explained. We're using what we learned from her transformation to build bridges between species, controlled, safe connections that let different types of minds understand each other. The medical council session lasted for 6 hours. When it ended, Elena had been appointed as the first director of interspecies adaptive medicine, heading a new department that would combine human chaos with alien precision to solve medical problems that neither approach could handle alone. But as Elena walked back to her quarters that evening, she found herself thinking about the bigger picture. Zara had become something unprecedented, a living bridge between species, a translator who could understand alien thoughts as easily as human ones. She was healthy, happy, and using her abilities to help bring different civilizations together. Yet Elena couldn't shake her concerns. Zara was still changing, still evolving in ways that medical science was only beginning to understand. She lived differently now, thought in patterns that sometimes seemed barely human. She talked about concepts that existed outside of time, emotions that connected all intelligent life across the galaxy. Do you ever regret it? Elena asked Zara that night as they sat looking out at the stars. Zara considered the question seriously. Sometimes I miss being simpler. There are days when I can feel the thoughts of everyone on the station. when I understand mathematical concepts that make my head hurt, when I see connections between things that are beautiful and terrifying. At the same time, she turned to Elena with those eyes that seemed to hold knowledge from civilizations across the galaxy. But then I think about all the understanding I can bring, all the connections I can help create between species that have never been able to truly communicate before. I think about the medical breakthroughs we're making, the lives we're saving. Elena nodded, understanding. She had faced an impossible choice and made a decision that changed not just one life, but the future of medicine across the galaxy. The aliens had said Zara wouldn't survive. Elena had proved them wrong, but in doing so, she had discovered that survival sometimes meant becoming something the universe had never seen before. Something wonderful, strange, and completely unprecedented. As Elena looked out at the stars, she wondered what other impossible patients would find their way to her medical bay. What other boundaries between species could be crossed with human stubbornness and adaptive medicine? The galaxy was full of challenges that elegant alien medicine couldn't solve. But Elena had learned something important. Sometimes the most chaotic, unpredictable approach was exactly what was needed. After all, she was human, and humans had never been very good at accepting impossible.